Shalom, shalom, Mr. Brother Officer.
Shalom, shalom. It's the brother Shemawal.
Khan, and today we getting into the one and the only, the Passover, man. I mean, this is one of the most important times of the year. We just celebrated the New Year, March 18th. I believe it was March 18th of this month. You know, see, Esau like to tell you that the New Year start January 1st, but the Lord, according to the Bible, starts the New Year when everything is starting to regenerate. All the flowers is getting ready to rebloom. All the trees is getting ready to give back forth their leaves, things of that nature. We transitioning out of the cold season unto the warm season. I mean, even today, at least here in Milwaukee, I mean it's damn like 71 degrees, man. It was just a snowstorm not too long ago. Now it's 70 something degrees. But that's the Midwest for you. So as you see in the title, man, today we're going into the Passover. But specifically, I wanted to get it started on how did the Passover start? Because it's important for us to notice as this is one of, if not the most important feast days in the entire Bible. It's very important. And Lord willing, I'm worthy to bring this out. So let's go to Exodus chapter 1. And hey, let's start at verse 1. And this is mostly for those who need a refresher on the Passover, but it's also for those who, hey, this might be your first time hearing about it. You know, we didn't grow up keeping the Passover. We grew up keeping Christmas. We grew up celebrating our birthday. We grew up uh, doing Halloween. We grew up doing, what is it, Easter around this time?
Mm-hmm.
A damn bunny that lay eggs, which don't even make no sense. But hey, that's what we grew up learning. I used to go to church on Sunday, Easter Sunday, and everybody put on their best suit with no fringes on it, and all the kids do a damn Easter egg hunt, man. You might find $5 in the egg if you find it behind the bush. That's what we learn. But hey, this time, according to the Lord, is the Passover. This is the time when the Lord first led his people, his chosen people, out of Egypt. So let's get into it. Exodus chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 1. Now, these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. So, whether you know or you don't know, the 12 tribes of Israel come from a man named Jacob. His name was changed to Israel, I believe it was in Genesis, the 32nd chapter, which means a prince that has power with God. So, no, we not just black people, we not just Native Americans, we not just wetback Hispanics. We are actually the chosen people of the Most High God, and we come from somewhere. Specifically, we come from a man named Jacob, whose name changed was changed to Israel. That's where we get our name Israelites from. Israelites means son of Israel. So I'm gonna read that again. It's Exodus 1 and 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. So if you haven't read Genesis, you gotta get in there. You know, hey, it's 50 chapters. We're not gonna jump into that today. But Joseph and his 11 brethren, his 10 brothers came into Egypt after a certain dispensation of time. Excuse me, I got a little bit of headache. I'm trying to do the best I can. And he came with all his brethren and their entire household. So we are in the land of Egypt at this time. This is important because the Passover comes from the time we was in Egypt. You can't truly understand, and speaking as a man, you can't truly understand the Passover if you don't know when it started and why it started. That's why we started from here. So I want you to understand that all the so-called blacks, the so-called Native Americans, and the so-called Hispanics were in Egypt at this time. Let's keep going. Let's drop down to verse 7, Exodus 1 and 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. And not only were we always known for multiplying like rabbits, but even today, here in America, hey, Esau, the so-called white man, they got a negative birth rate. They're a they're a population that's aging out. You think so-called black people is aging out? Your damn cousin got 3 kids right now. She 21. Your big brother, hey, how many kids young boy got? He like what, 26?
Yeah, he probably about. I think he got like 8, 9. Could
I
be
mean,
more.
a boy trying to repopulate America by himself, man.
Yeah.
Boosie got 1 million kids. Moneybag Yo got 1 million kids. Hey,
Stop.
Northern Kingdom, y'all ain't safe. Hey, Issachar, man, the so-called Mexicans, they be having 15 people in one house. Packed in a car, they packed in a Toyota Corolla, man. It's 20 of them in there. Whole family in one car. And we crack jokes, but hey, this is true. I don't care what city you go to. Just like back then in Exodus chapter 1 and verse 7, the children of Israel been multiplying like rabbits since forever. You understand that the man Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, had 12 kids? 12. Actually, we know about 13 because he had a daughter also. That's just what we know about. I was just talking to a brother about this not too long ago. How many brothers have 12 boys and only one girl? I'm led to believe he had more. Now, do I have a precept on that? Can I show you that in the Bible? Not necessarily. That's why I say I'm speaking as a man. But hey, even from a biological standpoint, women are born more often than men. But nonetheless, hey, Jacob, our forefather, the reason why we are called Israelites to this day, he had 13 kids. 13. I mean, Salakia, but the boy Jacob couldn't pull out of a driveway, man. Kids on kids. He was going crazy. And all praises for that, because, hey, me and the brother Shema Wall is here, man.
All right.
We here. You feel me? We here bringing out this word. I'm an Israelite. I'm not an Edomite. I'm not an Elamite.
Right.
I'm not a nasty Ammonite or a Moabite. Hey, I'm an Israelite. So let's continue to get into this, man. Let's walk it down slow. Y'all follow me. Let's drop down to Exodus chapter 1, verse 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. So just like they scared of us now, they've always been scared of us, man. Hey, what race have they tried as hard to keep down as they've tried the Israelites? Hey, we was just coming fresh out of slavery. We was coming fresh out of picking cotton. Why did they have to come up with the Jim Crow laws and the black codes? Why did they have to kill Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. if he was just some nigga who didn't mean nothing? If that was true, why did they have to skin Nat Turner, and eat his flesh. Literally, you can look that up. If us as a race, if we are so down low and not worth nothing, why do they go so hard to keep us down? Why do they dislike when we tell our people that we the Israelites so much? And see, we're not gonna get into it necessarily right now, but even the Lord, Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ, he said that they gonna hate y'all for my sake. That's part of a small part of how we know we're the Israelites, because who hates Christians? Ain't Christianity like the first or second most popular religion in the world? How many people is walking around talking about how much they hate Christians? But when it comes to the Israelites, hey, here it is. Every other week, you got a video of why I left the Hebrew Israelites. What they call us the black Hebrew Israelites.
Black.
Mind you, 9 out of the 12 tribes, which is 75%, are not black, but they still call us the black Hebrew Israelites. You only got 3 tribes out of 12. I don't even have enough fingers to count 12. You got 3 out of 12 that's so-called black, but they still call us the black Hebrew Israelites. Because just like in Exodus chapter 1, it's the same now. They are afraid of us knowing who we are, and they're afraid of what we're capable of. So let's keep going, right? I got a lot to get into. Exodus chapter 1 and verse number 11 now. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. Is that not literally what's going on right now? For all that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans have been through in this land, in this captivity that we're in, which is called the land of America, the United States, they got studies. This is what Esau did. We didn't come up with this. They got studies that says by the year 2050, the Northern Kingdom is going to outnumber the Edomites. They said that the so-called Latinos is going to be the majority. Now, they're not going to be a minority no more. Now, that's what they say. But, hey, that's what they saying. We're not making it up. And the reason we going into this because we got to let the people know, where did the Passover even come from? It started off with the fact that the Egyptians, when we was in slavery to them, they were scared of us. They knew who we were. They knew who our God was. They knew how much our God was dealing with us. And they was like, hey, man, we got to do something. I mean, is that not what the verse says? If we go to war with somebody, these damn Israelites is going to team up with the other side, and we ain't going to be able to do nothing against them. They was terrified. You know, when we be on the highways and byways teaching this word, you know, the brothers in my wall be having the braids. I got the nappy fro going. You know, the brother Todd Ward be having the gold grills in. They think we just some regular niggas. And then they come with their doctrine and it just get cut down badly. And they can't take it. I heard somebody say, and I'm gonna continue reading after this, y'all don't look like y'all into what y'all into. This was somebody told, they said, y'all don't look like y'all know all this stuff that y'all talking about. Because when they look at us, what do they see? They see Lil Durk. They see Young Boy. You know, they see uh, uh somebody who's meant for their use, not somebody who's supposed to be dictating to them what they should and shouldn't be doing. This is why it's important for me and this brother to go into these videos for us to show our people that, hey, we was the ones meant to have authority. So let's get back into this Passover, man. Let's go into Exodus chapter 5. Exodus chapter 3. So Exodus chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse 1. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father in law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. So this is when Moses is getting his one of his first encounters with the Lord. I mean, just imagine you see, let's just say, a tree on fire. It's on fire, but the leaves is not burning. I mean, even today, you're gonna be looking like, ain't no way. You're gonna be confounded. Give me 1 second. Let me turn this light on. It's getting a little dark. Come on, 1 second.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna be a little confounded. You're not gonna know what you're seeing. It's the same thing with Moses. Mind you, Moses didn't have no Instagram. It wasn't no damn Snapchat. Moses wasn't dropping statuses on Facebook. He just doing his thing, living life, and then he see this bush that's burning and is not consuming. So let's keep going. It says, verse 4. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Now we're getting into the point of me getting to chapter 3, verse 6. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. So, like, right, reading on. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land, unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And this is where it started getting juicy. Because the Lord is telling Moses, hey, I'm not ignorant to y'all situation. I'm the God of your father, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I know exactly what y'all going through. I hear every cry that y'all make. So now I'm going to use you, Moses, to bring my people out of Egypt. And for those who don't know, Passover is literally about us coming out of Egypt. That's the whole point of me giving this long rundown. You have to understand. Like, Passover is literally about how the Lord brought us out of slavery, out of Egypt. That's what Passover is about. So let's jump to chapter 5. Exodus chapter 5 and verse number 1. And if you haven't read Exodus, amen, get in there. We just trying to run through it briefly to get to the point, but this is the season for you to get into Exodus and really learn about your people. Exodus 5 and verse 1. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. So not only did Moses have this encounter with the Lord, where the Lord was telling him, Hey, I'm with you. I understand what y'all going through, and I'm gonna choose you to get my people out of this situation. But now Moses got to put in that work. He got to put in that faith behind that work behind that faith. So like this is when he said, "Hey, let my people go." He had to go to Pharaoh. Hey, leave my people alone, man. We got some business to handle. Let's keep reading. Verse 2. And Pharaoh said, Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go. And they said, the God of the Hebrews hath met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice unto the Lord our God, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. So let's get to Exodus chapter 11. All right, like I said, we're going to get through this briefly. Of course, there's more to it, but I just want the people who not really that familiar with how the Passover started to get a brief overview of what's going on. We started off with the Israelites coming into Jacob, into Israel, into Egypt with all of Israel, which was 70 people in Exodus chapter 1. And then you got Moses having this encounter with the Lord through the burning bush. And now Moses got to go to the Pharaoh like, hey, I got a God to serve. My people got a God to serve. You need to let us go. And the Pharaoh on some type of time, like, hey, I don't know the Lord. That ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? That's how Pharaoh coming with it. So let's go to Exodus chapter 11. And I want to get verse number 1. And the Lord said unto Moses, yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Now, for those who don't know, hey, the Lord was sending plague after plague after plague upon Egypt on behalf of us, his people, because he wanted us to be able to leave Egypt to go serve him. But the Pharaoh wouldn't let us. So this is the last plague. Pay attention. I will bring, yet will I bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards, he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence to altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. Verse 4. And Moses said, thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. So the Lord say, hey, we finna get this Passover cracking. I'm finna pass over the land of Egypt, and all the firstborn of everything, the beasts, the peasant servants of Egypt, unto the Pharaoh himself who sit upon the throne of Egypt. I'm unalive in all they firstborn. This is what the Lord was saying, man. And like I said, for those who don't understand the Passover, this is where the Passover comes from. You can still hear me though, right?
Gone.
Let me I have to do this right quick. Okay, Lord willing, that's better. Lord willing, that light is better. Right? So let's jump over to Exodus 12. Right. So like you for being long-winded, but I really gotta break this down and get this going for the people because a lot of times we just hear about Passover, but we don't really never go into where it came from. So this is Exodus chapter 12. And I'm gonna start at verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt, I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. So this the Lord talking that talk, like, hey, I'm finna get down on them Egyptians. And he was letting Moses know, word for word, hey, just wait on it. Hey, like the Drake album, if you're reading this, it's too late. It wasn't. There's no verse where it say, Pharaoh could have been like, "Oh, my bad, Yahweh. I'm sorry. I was tripping. My heart was hardened." And the Lord is telling Moses, "Hey, watch what I do to him tonight." And he stood on it. See, the Lord is not a man that he should lie. That's Numbers 23. The Lord don't just talk and then not do it. So let's jump to verse 1. Exodus chapter 12, verse 1. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." And like I was just saying, March 18th of this year, when we kept our new moon, was the beginning of this new year. It's not January 1st like Esau say. It's around the time of the Passover, like the Bible say. Let's keep going. Verse 3. "Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make you count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening." So the way that the Passover was set up to be was you take a lamb on the 10th day of the first month. And then 4 days later, on the 14th day of the first month, that's when you finally prepare this lamb to be killed for the Passover. Because for those who don't know, on the Passover, you got to eat lamb, among other things, but the lamb is chiefly what you have to have set apart getting ready for the Passover. So the Passover is not just, any old holiday. It's not Christmas. It's not damn Easter. Like I told you, ain't no bunnies laying no eggs. That's not what we celebrating in the truth. We keeping the Passover. And the Passover is set up to be kept exactly how the Lord said it. Now, here in our captivity in America, whether you in the U.S., the islands that got taken captive, wherever you at in the world, we keep the Passover to the best of our ability. However, we just going over how the law was written on how to keep the Passover. This is how Moses was instructed to keep the Passover of the Lord, because it's, like I said, one of the most, if not the most important feast day in the Hebrew calendar. Let's keep going. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 7. "And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the house, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it." So when we keep the Passover, like Lord willing, we about to next week, which is April 1st, that would be 4 days after, that would be the 14th day of the month, excuse me, according to the Hebrew calendar. Not only do you eat the lamb, but you eat the unleavened bread and the bitter herbs. I'm going to read that again. Verse 8, Exodus 12 and 8. "They shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs shall they eat it. They shall eat it." So you eat the bitter herbs, the unleavened bread, and the lamb. It's all in that same night. We not waiting until 3 o'clock in the afternoon that next day to eat it. You eat it in that same exact night. That's how the Passover was kept. Let's keep going. Verse 9. "Eat not of it raw, nor sodden it all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire. And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover." So not only do you have to eat this unleavened bread and this lamb that you roast with fire, you can't boil it, you can't do none of that. You got to roast it with fire. Eat that lamb, the unleavened bread, and the bitter herbs. You got to have your loins girded, whether that's you tying a scarf around your belly, whether some brothers might have an actual belt, whatever, you got to gird your loins. And then it says, have your shoes on your feet and your staff in your hand. You better have a staff, man. If you don't have, hey, you better go outside to your backyard, snatch one of them branches off that tree, and you better hold that staff in your hand while you eating that Passover, man. This is how it works. Hey, I believe it was my first Passover on my way into the venue that we had. Not only me, but other brothers and sisters. They outside looking for sticks. Say, I gotta have a staff, man. Some people pulling branches off the tree, some people finding them on the ground. Whatever you gotta do to keep this Passover the way you're supposed to keep it, you gotta understand we was in Egypt. We wasn't, it wasn't no damn Home Depot. I mean, show me the precept where Moses and them was going to Menards to get the damn staff, man. Where was Amazon Prime at? Aaron and them was ordering the damn staff, and it had the Hebrew letters on it. Hey, you got to get it how you live. You got to figure it out. But this is how you keep the Passover. So let's keep going. I want verse 12. For I will Exodus chapter 12 and verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will slay all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. I'm gonna read verse 13 too. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. So, like it said in verse 11, this is the Lord's Passover. The Passover literally came from when we were in Egypt, and the Lord said, after I do this to Egypt, they're going to let y'all go. They're going to let y'all come serve me. I'm going to pass over the land of Egypt and smite all the firstborn. But because y'all are going to have that blood on your doorpost, like I told you, I'm going to pass over y'all, and y'all not going to suffer that same judgment. This is how much the Most High God loved us and still does to this day. That's why the Passover is kept perpetually. The Passover is kept perpetually. And I was going to jump over to verse chapter 13. But hey, let's just go straight to Matthew chapter 26, and then you got it out. I know it was kind of long. I went for about 30 minutes, y'all, but I had to really bring this into y'all mind of where it comes from. The Passover is not just, this is not Christmas. I have to keep saying that. Because if I ask most of y'all where Christmas came from, y'all won't know. You just know your mama and them or your great grandma and them used to buy gifts. They used to hang that nasty tree up. You know, on Easter, you used to put that baggy suit on that didn't fit you when you was a kid. You used to put them gator skins on. And y'all would go to church for that 6 hour church service where the pastor ain't teaching you nothing. He just taking your money. Hey, I don't know about you, but when I went to church, my mama used to give me cash to put in a collection plate. You know what I'm saying? However much she feel like giving that, she might give me a $5 bill. Let's go in that collection plate on Easter Sunday. You know, I done heard stories of people getting put out the church for not having money for that collection plate. You know, what they call them CME, uh, 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 CME Christians. What is it? Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. That's the only time y'all went to church, man. Well, hey, here in the Passover, every single year, around March, April time, it's the Passover, the Most High God. Kind of like the brother said, no chocolate eggs, man. Hey, God forbid a brother show up to the Passover with a damn Easter bunny costume on. We gonna rebuke that brother, man. You know what I'm saying? It ain't. You hear the brother Shema Wall? It ain't gonna happen, man. We not dealing with none of that. This is the Passover of the Lord. In the same way that the Lord led us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm in front of the whole world, it's the same way He gonna lead us out of this current Egypt. So let's go to Matthew 26 and verse 19. Matthew chapter 26, and I'm going to start at verse 19. I'm starting at verse 17. Now, the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare thee to eat the Passover? And he said, go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, the master saith, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. And one of the reasons I want to bring this out is because even back then they was keeping the Passover the best that they could. They was keeping the Passover at a house. We try to do venues. They was keeping the Passover at somebody's house. But yet and still they was keeping the Passover. That's the point. And this is the cut for all you Christians and for all you Israelites who still got a Christian mind who believe that we don't have to keep the law. Well, why was the Lord keeping the Passover? Why was the disciples making such a big deal out of keeping the Passover if we don't have to keep the law no more? That don't even make sense. So let's keep going. Verse 19. And the disciples did as Yahushua had appointed them, and they made ready the Passover. Now, when the even was come, he sat down with the 12, this is the 12 disciples. And as they did eat, he said, verily I say unto you that one of you shall betray me. And they were exceeding sorrowful, and began every one of them to say unto him, Lord, is it I? I'm going to drop down to verse 26, Matthew 26 and 26. And as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. So for those who don't know, the bread, the unleavened bread, represents the Lord Yahushua, his body. Let's keep going. 27. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And when they had sung an hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. So the Passover is literally a representation of Yahushua. The Passover was about us being able to leave out of our captivity, to go and serve the Lord and sacrifice to the Lord. That's what the lamb is. Well, is not the lamb Yahushua? I mean, even Christians know that. The bread that we eat is his body. The wine that we drink at the Passover is his blood. So the Passover is a representation of Yahushua in the flesh. Right. So Salakia for being long-winded on that. I just wanted to bring that out. You got it all right.
Yeah, Khan, all praise to the Most High. Yeah, hey, this the Passover, man. The things that we celebrate, these high holy days, they have meaning. We know what we celebrate. We know what we worship, right? We know what we worship. In the world, they like brother brought it out. They celebrating Easter and all these holidays, not knowing the origins of it. We know the origins of our high holy days and feast days. We know the spiritual meaning. Jake and Eve, they don't know the spiritual meanings, you know, of these damn pagan holidays, man. All of it is witchcraft. But you actually can read the Bible and see why we celebrating. Why is y'all having lamb? Why the bitter herbs? Why the unleavened bread? Why the wine? And why this and why that? You find that out in the scriptures, right? So I'm gonna bring this precept out. All right. Psalms, real quick. Psalms 119. Shalaki. Yeah, a lot going on in my sword. Psalms 119, verse 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way. These pagan holidays, the Easter, that's a false way. The Christmas, that's a false way. And if you want to understand what we celebrating, what we keeping on certain months and seasons, hey, you're going to find out through the precepts. right? So I want to bring that out because yeah, we know actually what we celebrating. Now it's a point that I'm gonna bring out according to Passover, Exodus 12, real quick. Right? Exodus 12 and go down to verse 14. Right? I'm gonna actually go to verse 13. I'm starting at 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. Against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and a plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. Right? As you know, the brother brought out, we put the blood on the doorpost. So, the Lord, which is Yahweh, do not kill us, man. Right? That blood is to protect us. So, the Lord don't pass over us or will pass over us. Right? And that's the same thing as, Yahweh having his blood upon us. The lamb, the blood and the bread is all representation of Yahweh Shah, right? So let me read on down with that. Salakia, right? Verse 14, it says, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. So the 7 days, every day you have to eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. You have to take leaven out of your houses. While we do it, we just taking leaven out. Hey, take the leaven out. You got them, they don't even know why they wrap up presents and give gifts. They don't know on Halloween why they dress up. You don't know why you dressing up. You don't even know the spiritual meaning of these things. Not even knowing this on the left hand side. But for us to take leaven out is spiritual because that leaven can represent sin, right? So let's get First Corinthians, right? First Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 6. It says, your glory is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Hamashiach, our Passover, is sacrificed for us, right? Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven. That's the old man. That's the old ways. Don't keep the Passover thinking it's Easter. Don't keep the Passover thinking, oh man, where the chocolate eggs at? That's madness. The old leaven is the way you used to live in the world before you came in the truth, before you knew Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. It says, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth, right? So that leaven represents, sin, wickedness, your old ways, your old understanding, all that is leaven. You have to purge that, right? It says, I'm gonna go back to 15. It says, even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses, right? So that's out of your house. Your house is your temple is your house through the spirit, right? You take that out of your physical and your spiritual as well. So let's get that First Corinthians 13 and 16. Then we'll get to it. First Corinthians 3:16, right? This First Corinthians 3:16, it says, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, right, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. And we are a holy people. The Lord created us to be holy. So you have to take the leaven out of your household. It's spiritual. Like I said, they don't. People in the world don't even know what they're celebrating. They don't even know what the spiritual things of them celebrate these pagan holidays, not knowing it's of Satan, right? The damn devil, man. None but deceiving, right? So let's go back to Matthew 26, right? So you have to take the leaven, out of your households and your temple, because these bodies are borrowed, right? We don't necessarily own this. The Most High owns it, right? So Matthew chapter 26, I'm gonna go to verse. Um, I'm gonna go to verse 25. Actually, I got another point. Salakia. Because as we know, yeah, we eat the lamb, right? We eat the lamb, brother. Some people say they don't even like lamb, you know. I don't really like lamb, man. It don't taste right. Hey, it's an ordinance. If you don't keep it, you're gonna get judged. If you don't eat the body of the Lord, the lamb, you're gonna get judged, right? So as they had to kill the lamb, roast it. Yahweh Shai is that sacrificial lamb. Let's get that. We're not doing things, we ain't winging it like they do in the world, right? So that's John chapter 1, verse 29. It reads, John chapter 1, verse 29. It says, the next day, John seeth Yahushua coming unto him, and saith, behold, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. Right? So Yahushua is that Lamb. And we have to partake in the Passover, right? And eat the body of the Lord in remembrance of him, because he is that sacrificial lamb. That blood is his. We got to have that on our doorposts, right? So this Matthew chapter 26, verse 26, it says, and as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and break it and he gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed from many for the remissions of sins. Because that blood, when you put it on your doorpost, it's so the Lord will pass over, and spiritually it's so that the Lord's blood can be upon you, because that's what cleanses you. Let's get that in First John. All right. First John chapter 5 and verse 5. It says, who is he that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Yahweh is the Son of God? This is he that came by water and blood, even Yahweh Mashiach, not by water only, but by water and blood. And it is the Spirit that bringeth witness, because the Spirit is truth, right? Let's get Hebrews chapter 9. Right, so that blood is what cleanses you, Yahweh Shai's blood. And most are willing through faith of him that his blood is upon us. So you have to drink up that cup. You have to eat the unleavened bread. First of all, you have to eat the bitter herbs, because the bitter herbs represents captivity. So as you see in the Passover, yes, we was in Egypt. We got out of Egypt. All this is spiritual, because we in Egypt today. We in captivity today. So if you're not keeping this feast day, this high holy day, it's a problem, man. This is a memorial of your forefathers. History is gonna repeat itself. All right. Let's get that. I kind of lost track. Oh yeah, Hebrews chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9. Right. In verse Hebrews chapter 9 in verse 10. Right, I'm gonna start at yeah, I'm gonna start at 10. I'm gonna start at 9. Right, it says, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect as pertaining to the conscience. Right, because the priests at that time, they had to cut, they had to wash themselves before they do the sacrifices. They had to wash their feet, wash their hands, their body. They had to make sure they come correct towards the Lord, right? Making sure they cleanse before they end up touching the holy things, right? So all the services that they did, it didn't make them perfect, right? It didn't make them perfect with what it said as pertaining to the conscience. Verse 10, it says, which stood only in meats and drinks and diverse washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of reformation. But a Mashiach being come and high priest of good things to come by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood. He entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us, right? By his blood. It says, for if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctify to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of a Mashiach, right? So the blood is what cleanses you. So most high willing, the blood of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is upon us, right? So Matthew chapter 26, verse 27, 28, it says, so for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remissions of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, right? So you have to partake in that, right? You have to partake in, in the Passover, because this is a remembrance of the Lord. Let's get 1 Corinthians 11. 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 23. It says, for I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Yahushua, that same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. You partake in the Passover, it's in a remembrance of the Lord. So you can't just be at the Passover, you think it's a day of rejoicing, you real happy, you could be happy, but remember why you really there, you know, remember all the things that you have done. Because think about this, and these pagan holidays, they be holding grudges, they be freaking off, they do a lot in the world. And then next thing you know, when them holidays come up, they make it seem like they so righteous and they got their life together. You can't do this on this day. You can't do that on any other high holy days of the Lord. You can't do that on the new moon, which is a holy day. You can't do that. The Lord gonna get up with you. So when you partake in the Passover, it's in remembrance of your forefathers when we left out of Egypt. It's also in remembrance of Yahushua, because he's that sacrificial lamb for us for remissions of sins and that grace, right? Let's get that. So I brought that out. John chapter 1. All right. This is John chapter 1 and verse 17. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahushua. So it was that grace and that mercy of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, right? So it's in the remembrance of Yahushua, him dying for the nation, right? So let's read that again. Verse 1 Corinthians 11 and 24 says, when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. Because we got to remember the things of what Yahushua went through, the grief, all the pain, right? The disobedience of Israel, even with Moses, right? Verse 25, after the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as ye drink it in remembrance of me. So this is in remembrance of the Lord Hamashiach Yahushua, man, right? So when you partake in this high holy day, this feast day, the Passover, have to remember of Yahushua, right? Verse 26, for as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do shew the Lord's death till he come. See that? Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord, man. And you don't want to have that spirit, right? But let a man examine himself. So you got to examine yourself on this day. In the world, they don't examine themselves, man. They going into Halloween, they going into Christmas, they going into Sweetest Day, Valentine's, all these wicked holidays. They not examine themselves at all. They do wickedness, wake up the next day, and I'm a new man now, right? I'm a new woman. I don't. That's the past. When you're not even taking the steps to actually change yourself, you can't do that. You can't do that in this truth, right? Because so-called, you eating unworthily. You eating unworthily on Christmas. You doing it in vain. It's off, but that's basically what they do, on the left hand side. But right, verse 28, it says, but let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. Right? For he that eateth and drinketh unworthily, eateth and drinketh the nation to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. So you got to discern the Lord's body. You got to examine yourself and discern the things you have done. Examine yourself, what you could do better. And what you could do better, you have to partake in that. Take the steps forward of doing that, you know, before you partake in this Passover, man. Right? So all praise to the Most High. Right, let's go into Matthew 27. Right? Matthew 27. Because you do shew forth the Lord's death, man. So Matthew 27, I'm gonna go to verse. I'm not trying to be long-winded as well. Get right to the point. Because the brother covered it. He covered, what is the Passover? How is it? How do you keep it? And, through the Spirit of the Lord, the best of my ability, going to the spiritual aspect. Because Yahweh is that lamb, right? Yahweh is the lamb, he was that sacrificial lamb. His body is, the bread, he's the unleavened bread. And you drink of that wine, that's his blood, right? So Matthew chapter 27, let's start at verse 27, right? It says, I'm starting at 26. Then released he Barnabas unto them, and when he had scourged Yahushua, he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Yahushua into common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. And they stripped him, and put on him a scarlet robe. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him, and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. You have to put this in remembrance. This is a heavy lot for the nation of Israel, for the nation, for us to even be here today, for us to have a chance to be able to get the kingdom, to have a chance to make our calling and election sure, man. Right? It says, and they spit upon him and took the reed and smote him on the head. And after that, they have mocked him, They took the robe off from him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to be to crucify him. Right? This is what Yahushua was going through. And before this, man, right? Let's jump down, get right to the point. Verse 44. It says, the thieves also which were crucified with him cast the same his teeth. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. It's like for the pronunciation. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, this man calleth for Elijah. And you see, Yahushua, he had a moment in the flesh. So why has God forsaken me? And we always have times like that as well. You know, not to think like the Lord forsaken, but you going through the fire and you like, man, what the hell is going on? What is going on? What have I done? You know, you're not trying to question the Lord, but you like, damn, you know. And this is all why he's going through it for the nation of Israel, so we can be here today. So partaking in the Passover is a remembrance of Yahushua. So I'm gonna read that First Corinthians 11 again. First Corinthians 11 and verse 26. It says, for as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do shew the Lord's death till he come. Right? Till he come. Right? So Matthew chapter 27, verse 49. Right? The rest said, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. Yahushua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent and twined from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. Right? All praise to the Most High. You know, Most High willing, you was edified. And those that don't know what we keeping, you can watch this video and actually get the edification through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, Most High willing. Right? But with that, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, Bashem Amashah, Wamalak Hatazdak Yahushua, Kwam Yashrella, and Shalom. Right? I don't know the brother. Okay, God.
Okay, shalom.